Hey there, awesomes, and welcome back to another episode of Self-Worth School, the podcast where we share lessons on becoming your happiest, most confident self, whether that's in life, in business, in work. It's all about being able to trust yourself more and build a life that reflects your true worth. You've got me as your teacher today. It's a solo episode, and boy, have I had a day of what's been going on just in my life, not necessarily business. DM me if you want the goss. But do you know what? When I came up with the idea for this episode, it was so easy to get together what I wanted to say, which is always a great sign because it means that it's a lesson that people really need to hear. So today we're talking about something that I see pretty much constantly in my coaching sessions. And the women that I work with very rarely realize that they are doing it. Mostly they realize that they're ambitious, they want a lot for themselves, for their lives, for their businesses. They're driven, they're hardworking, they achieve success by anyone's measures. But underneath it all is often a question that they're trying to answer, whether they realize it or not. And it's, am I enough yet? Because so many women have learned to measure their worth by what they do and what they achieve. And I am not immune to that. And we'll talk about that in a little while. But yeah, when we talk about measuring worth in terms of what we do, we're talking about how productive they are, how much they achieve, how many people they help, how useful they are, how needed they are. And if that sounds familiar, then this episode is definitely for you because we're going to talk about where this comes from, why it keeps us stuck in these cycles of burnout or people pleasing or overworking, how to start separating your worth from your output, which is what a lot of us measure it by. So this episode, let's say, is all about how to stop measuring your worth through what you do. And one of the things that I've noticed with so many clients lately is that they're not just necessarily chasing goals. When they come to me and we're deciding what the outcome is going to be, it's very rarely a specific goal. It's more a feeling, like they're chasing validation, feeling good enough. Like I said, not in an obvious way, not in a please like me type way, but in a much more socially acceptable way through productivity, doing more, achieving more, being helpful, being dependable, being the person that everyone can rely on, the woman who always says yes, or the founder that never stops, the mom who does everything, the employee who goes above and beyond, the friend who's fixing everybody's problems. And the thing is, because these behaviors are praised, we don't tend to question them because they're the things that are making us feel like we're a good person, that we're playing a role in our lives, an important role. In fact, people often admire these qualities, people's ability to create more, be there for more people, do more things, because underneath them is often a belief that if I'm useful to people, then I'm valuable. And that's where the problem starts. Because most of us weren't taught this intentionally, that in order to be valued by the people that I love, in order to be needed, in order to be loved and approved of, I need to be useful. I need to provide value in order to be valuable. And it's something that many of us have learned over time. Maybe you were praised for, as a kid growing up, being responsible or getting good grades or helping other people out or being mature or being an easy child or easier than your siblings, which I think is something that I definitely got, even though they might disagree. Being successful or say not causing problems. You learned that your approval from the people that mattered, which is normally our primary caregivers or any real people in positions of authority, that approval comes from performance, that love comes from when you contribute, that you get praised and are made to feel like you matter and you're important when you achieve something. So your brain created a simple equation that is worth equals what I do, because that's when you get noticed. That's when you're told the things that make you feel good. That's when you get, say, the praise, the attention, the affection, those kind of feel good hormones. And in one sense, there's nothing wrong with that. It is nice to receive validation when you have made an effort, or when somebody acknowledges that something you've done does make you a kind person or a clever person. There's nothing wrong with that so much. But it's to a degree that we use that to then measure whether or not we're a worthy person of love and praise, rather than that's the extra, the cherry on top that I get for just doing those things. And the tricky thing is, this equation that you created, this worth equals what I do, worked because you did get rewarded for it. People did appreciate the things that you do. People relied on you, which can be a really validating feeling. People needed you. And so your brain went, great, this is how we stay safe. This is how we belong. And our brains are driven, we are driven as human beings to require a sense of belonging and community and connection with people, because that's how we move. It's how we survive in the first place. Back when we were cavemen and women, if we didn't have a community around us, if we didn't belong in some way, if we were outcast from society, what have you, we would die. We simply wouldn't be able to live alone. And our primal brains haven't really moved on that much from that time. We still see safety in numbers, safety in that connection. So there's that survival side of it, but there's also the thriving side of it, where we feel happiest, where we feel our biggest sense of well-being. And that is when we belong. 80% of our happiness, research shows, comes from our relationships, the quality of them, as opposed to maybe the number of them. But that sense of belonging is what really a lot of us are looking for. And that's why it feels so difficult when we feel like we're not liked or we're not accepted. And so we do the things, we measure about how liked or accepted or loved or appreciated we're going to be by measuring our value in terms of how valuable we're going to be to other people. So like I said, the problem isn't achievement itself, or being somebody who's useful or kind or smart or whatever. The problem is needing achievement to feel just okay about yourself, to feel like you matter. Because when worth becomes conditional on how much you're feeling achievement or value, then life becomes exhausting, because rest feels guilty, because you're like, I need to be doing something. I need to always be doing something, because otherwise what's the point? What am I doing? I'm just being lazy. Other people are going to need me. Boundaries feel selfish, because you're like, if I'm not giving to people, then what value do I have? Because if I say no, if I stop, then what value are they going to see in my love? Failure feels very personal. Success never feels like enough, because having to prove your worth by what you do is something constant. You never get to a point where you go, I've done enough now. I've achieved enough now, because you'll hit a goal and then immediately move the goalpost, because what, you can't just say, that's it now for life. I've achieved, I've helped all the people I can. I've loved all the people I can. I've said yes to my family the enough times. You finish one thing, you achieve one thing, you do one thing for one person, and then you move straight on to the next. And you get a compliment on something and you brush it off, because you're like, this is just what I'm supposed to do in order to be a good person or to be good enough to achieve what I want to achieve. You might finally get a day off and spend the whole time feeling guilty, feeling like I should be working on my business or doing something for someone else or catching up with family. I've done this myself, like I mentioned, years ago. I wouldn't even apply for promotions I wanted. I wouldn't even apply for a supervisor position at a pub that I worked at alongside my uni course, not because I wasn't capable. I used to be extremely ambitious as a child and teenager, but at some point, rejection felt too dangerous because if I didn't get it, even a simple-ish job like that, then what would that mean about me? If I went up against people that I felt maybe would be better suited to it, or even worse, people that I thought maybe I should, in theory, maybe I've got more experience than them, or what have you. I should, in theory, do it, but for some reason didn't get the job. How am I going to feel? Or what about the pressure on me to then do more, to be more? And actually, I'm already at the capacity of how far I want to go with this. And later, when I started my coaching business, I spent years telling myself, and do still sometimes to a degree, that I wasn't creative enough or entrepreneurial enough or experienced enough to make a success of this, because I always felt like I'm a doer. I can work hard if you tell me what I need to do. I can apply all of those things, but am I the creator or am I the deliverer? And looking back, like none of those were really business problems. They were worthiness problems because, yeah, of course, every business owner wants to create and innovate, but I don't have to do that in order to just be valuable. Because then you're almost attaching how much you achieve, how many people you help, and the skills that you were born with to your ego. And it was something that my meditation teacher said when I was on retreat in Thailand last year. And it really hit me that whilst it is okay to feel proud and to want to use your gifts and purpose to make people better, it's a better angle to come from. And rather than say, I have value because I have these skills and I'm helping people. It's more from a responsibility point of view. I've been given these gifts in one way or another. Obviously, in some ways they've been nurtured, but actually, if I've received these gifts from the universe, whatever you want to talk about it is my responsibility to use these. I'm a conduit for these gifts in order to help someone else, rather than attaching my ego to it and making it feel like now I'm worthy and valuable because I've got these skills and I'm going to help someone. And it was a lot more freeing to think of it that way, that to be grateful for the fact that I have these kind of gifts and skills and to use them to better the world rather than better myself. And what I think is really happening if we bring it back to we've been talking about the link to self-worth the whole way through, but here's what I think is really happening. So we do something helpful, you achieve something, you solve a problem, you get praise, you feel good, you feel valuable. You're like, yep, this is the reason why I'm here. This is why I'm going to be accepted and loved by people. And you get all those feel good hormones and your brain goes, oh, excellent. Yeah, awesome. Let's do more of that. And so next time that you feel uncertain or insecure, you don't rest, you don't reconnect with yourself, you go and do something. Because you're like, oh, the last time I did that, I did something. I did something for people. You go and help someone, you achieve something, you stay busy, and you prove yourself again until you feel good again. And over time, being needed becomes confused with being worthy. And that's why so many women struggle to slow things down, because when they're not doing or producing or helping, they don't know how to access their worth. And so the shift that we need to go under isn't stop achieving. That isn't the message. It isn't stop helping. It isn't stop being ambitious. The shift is stop using those things as evidence that you're enough. One of my favorite reframes is, I'm not valuable because of what I do. What I do has value because I am valuable, just as I am. Like, hear that again. I'm not valuable because of what I do. What I do has value because I am valuable. And even though there's an essence of ego in that, by saying I am valuable, it is also just a truth. You don't necessarily have to attach it to ego and say, I am valuable. It is just more, we all have value as we're born. We all have those gifts. Everyone has value. Everybody is equal when they are born. Obviously, people are born into different circumstances, but there's no hardwired code into your DNA. This person is valuable. This person can do that. This one can't. It's, you are valuable. You have gifts, you have things, you have purpose to live, but you are just valuable whether you're using that or not. Because these things are completely different. The I'm being valuable because of what you do is saying I earn worth. Whereas what I do has value because I am valuable is I bring worth with me, just as I am. So this week, in terms of your homework, I want you to complete these 3 sentences. Just write them down somewhere. I'll finally feel successful when. Second one, I'll finally feel confident when. Just notice what comes up. Even if you're listening to this on the move, what words are coming up? And the third one, I'll finally feel proud of myself when. And just see what comes up. And then I want you to ask yourself, whatever you put after those things, what if I never reach that? Whatever you entered there, whether it was like a huge ask or even a small one, like a high standard or a kind of medium one, like what if you never reach that for whatever reason? Does that mean you'd be worthless? Or have you accidentally attached your worth to a future achievement? And then ask yourself, how would I treat myself today? How would I treat the work that I'm doing if I already believed I was enough? Without the praise, without saying yes to everybody, without being the friend that always compromises themselves, without hitting your business milestone. If you already believed you're enough, how would that make you feel different? How would that reduce the pressure that you put yourself under? How would that affect how you set boundaries? Because the women that I coach, they don't tend to need another productivity session. They don't need another qualification. They don't need more experience. They don't need to prove themselves one more time. They need to stop treating their worth and a moment of finally I'm enough and I've done enough. They need to stop treating that like the reward that they get at the end, rather than just the reward you get all the time for being you, for doing anything that you do. Because self-worth isn't something that you earn. It's just something you have. It's something you bring with you to whatever you do. And when you truly believe that, you still achieve, you still grow, you still help people. Now, it doesn't mean that you stop doing any of that, but you do it from a place of abundance. Like, there is so much here for me, no matter what I do, rather than from a place of proving, of lack. I need more attention, more clients, more validation, more achievement, more progress. And ultimately, that can change everything. So when we come back to that question, like how to stop measuring your worth by what you do, you need to start measuring it by something else. Let's say not your productivity, not your income, not your achievements, not how many people you've helped this week, not by how many boxes you've ticked. Instead, start measuring it by how kindly you speak to yourself and how often you trust yourself. And hugely, like how much of your life is actually yours. Because self-worth, it's not built through achievement. Like we said, it's built through that relationship with yourself. And if your worth currently rises and falls with your productivity or your business results or the career that you've got or how useful you are to everyone else or how much everybody else thinks you're the best, most kindest person on the planet, then just know that you're not alone in feeling like that. And this is some of the work that I do with my clients, because when you stop treating your worth as something that you have to earn, awesome stuff starts to happen. You make decisions faster, you set boundaries, you stop people pleasing, you allow yourself to become more visible without needing to be an expert first. You stop waiting for permission and you start building a life and business that actually feels like yours. So if this episode resonated, and particularly when it comes to a dream you have for your career or your business or your side hustle, and you're ready to do that work, then you should definitely come and join me inside the cult. It's my new membership, a space for women who are done measuring themselves by their output, they're done circling their potential, proving their worth, and they want to build the confidence, momentum, and self-trust that allows them to move that from the inside out. So if you're interested, I'll leave the link in the show notes. I do also offer one-to-one coaching. You're very welcome to set up a free discovery call to talk about that too. I'll share the notes there. But as always, if this episode has helped you in any way, please feel free to share online, tag me, or just share with someone who needs to hear it. Other than that, I will see you in the next lesson, and I hope you have a great day.